I saw a figure standing over my paralyzed patient's bed. I ran into the room. It was empty. But the IV pump had been reprogrammed. Someone had saved his life. But the passcode they used didn't belong to a single person in the building. My name's Nurse Rains. I did 20 years in healthcare. Started in the ER, which, if you've worked it, you know. You either burn out fast or something in you just goes quiet and tough. Moved on to the psych ward after that, then ICU. I finished in hospice. I've been in the room when people take their last breath. I've held the hand of someone going out. I've also been in rooms where someone had no business surviving and did. So I'm not somebody who jumps to ghost stories. That's not who I am. If there's a rational explanation, I want the rational explanation. I will work to find it. What I'm about to tell you, I couldn't find one, and I've had years to look. Names are changed, location's been altered, but this happened. Okay, so you have to understand what 3 a.m. in an ICU actually is, because it's not like the rest of the hospital. During the day, that place is loud. Carts going by, overhead pages every 3 minutes, families in the waiting room, orderlies, residents. There's always movement, always noise. And then night shift comes on and it just drops. After 2 in the morning, it's a completely different world. It's just you and your patients and whatever machines are keeping them going. We had a fluorescent light at the far end of the hall that had been flickering for 2 weeks. I put in the maintenance request. Nothing. You stop noticing it until one night, for some reason, you do, and you can't stop. The air in an ICU smells like something, like bleach and antiseptic on top, and then something underneath that you stop trying to name after your first few months. You just breathe it. My patient that night, I'm going to call him Mr. Calloway. Mid-50s. He'd come in 2 days earlier with septic shock. Initially, they thought it was going to be manageable, and then he went downhill fast. By the time I got him on nights, he was sedated, chemically paralyzed, on full vent support. And when I say paralyzed, I want to make sure that lands. This man could not move a finger, could not take a breath on his own. The ventilator was doing every single thing, his lungs, his rhythm. If that machine stopped, he stopped. He was completely dependent on the equipment and on us. His IV was running a saline drip. Stable. I'd checked his chart, confirmed his orders, done my assessment at 0200. His numbers weren't great, his blood pressure was lower than I'd like, but it wasn't alarming, nothing was flagging. So I stepped out to the station to chart. 15 feet, glass window, full line of sight to his bed. Routine. Quiet. I looked up at the monitor. We had a secondary camera feed at the station. It was a split monitor. Each room had its own little square on the screen. Mostly it was there for liability stuff, falls, the rare patient who'd somehow managed to pull out their own breathing tube. I was watching it the way you watch something you've looked at 1,000 times before, and I saw someone standing over Mr. Calloway's bed. Okay, first thought, that's Lopez. That's our respiratory therapist doing a check. Totally normal. That's what you think. But it wasn't Lopez. The figure on that feed wasn't in scrubs. It was tall and dark. And I don't mean like dark clothes. I mean the camera itself seemed like it couldn't quite figure out what it was looking at, like it kept trying to resolve and couldn't. Now, those were old monitors. The resolution was not great. I'm not going to exaggerate this. But the shape was wrong, and it was standing right next to the IV pump, and it looked like it was doing something. I was out of my chair before I'd thought it through. Ran down that hallway. It's maybe 12, 15 seconds. I pushed open his door, and I said out loud, "Hey!" Nothing. Room empty. Just Mr. Calloway, eyes taped shut, chest going up and down on the ventilator's schedule. I checked the window, sealed. Checked the bathroom, nobody. One door in and out of that room, the door I'd just come through. Then I looked at the pump. The screen had changed. His drip was no longer saline. It had been switched to a vasopressor. That's a medication we use to pull blood pressure back when someone's crashing. And not just any pressor, a specific one. And here's what I really need you to understand about that pump. You cannot accidentally make that change. You need to enter a 4-digit passcode. Then you navigate through multiple screens. It's a deliberate, manual process every single time. You can't bump it. It doesn't drift. A person has to stand in front of that machine and do it step by step. I'm standing there staring at the screen, and then the alarm went off. Mr. Calloway's blood pressure dropped, and not slowly, it fell off a cliff. Inside of 60 seconds, his systolic was in the 60s and still going down. He was crashing, a vascular collapse that nothing in his vitals 20 minutes earlier had even hinted at. That's what septic shock does. It just waits, and then it takes you. I called the code, got rapid response on the phone. And that vasopressor, the one already running in the pump, already in his system, was exactly the right medication. Not just generally right, specifically right. The one an experienced critical care doctor would have chosen if they knew what was about to happen. The attending got there. We got him stabilized. By 4:30 in the morning, his pressure was holding. She looked at the pump. She looked at his chart. She looked at me and said, "Who ordered this?" I said I didn't know, because I genuinely didn't know. I reported it, obviously, I reported it. IT pulled the security footage from that room. What they found was a 3-minute window of static distortion. Equipment malfunction, old cameras, it happens. That was their answer on the footage. Then they pulled the pump's internal access log. Every pump in that facility kept a record, timestamp, what changed, what passcode was used to make the change. That's a standard safety thing. It's always running in the background. The log showed one entry, right in the middle of that window, one access, one set of changes, and the passcode that was used did not match any staff member on shift that night, so they went wider. They checked it against every active credential in the whole system, every nurse, every tech, every RT, every doc with access. Nothing. That code did not belong to anyone currently employed at the facility. They closed it out as a documentation error. Someone changed the pump, forgot to chart it, forgot to call the order in, paperwork got lost. It happens. That was the official answer. And listen, I've told myself that version. I've really tried to sit with it. Maybe some exhausted nurse made a call in the dark, saved that man's life, and never said anything. It's possible. Healthcare workers do extraordinary things and don't get credit for them all the time. But I keep getting stuck on the same thing. Who does all of that, enters the code, navigates the menu, sets the drip, and then doesn't stay to watch if it works? Who saves someone's life and just walks away before they even know if it worked? That part I can't get past. That part. Mr. Calloway made it. He was off the vent 11 days later. He went home. The morning he transferred out of the ICU, I went and stood outside his room for a minute. He was awake, talking to his daughter, complaining about the food, honestly, completely normal. He had no idea who I was. He'd been unconscious for all of it. None of it was in his memory at all. I stood there and I just thought, you have no idea what happened in this room. That night changed me. I don't know how else to say it. I became a different kind of nurse after that, more present maybe, or just more honest with myself about how close the edge actually is. I always knew it was close. You can't do this job and not know that. But after that night, I felt it differently. Every patient I had after that, I was aware of it in a way I hadn't been before. I don't know what was in that room. I've sat with every explanation I could find, rational and otherwise. I've thought about tired eyes and bad camera resolution and undocumented staff and all of it. And here's where I land after everything. There's a line between alive and gone, and working in a hospital, you get close to that every shift. It's not a wall, it's more like a membrane, something thin that you can almost see through. And in those quiet hours after 2 a.m., when the hallway light is flickering and the ventilator is breathing for someone who has no breath of their own left, I think sometimes something is paying attention. I don't know what it is. I can't name it. I'm not going to try. But Mr. Calloway went home to his daughter, and I have never once been able to decide if that night should scare me or if it's the closest thing I've ever seen that somebody, somewhere, is keeping track. I still check the logs sometimes just to see if that code appears again. I want to know, have you ever been saved by something you couldn't explain, a glitch, a stranger who disappeared? Tell me in the comments. I read them all.